Hi and welcome to my channel. In this video I want to talk about the Guardian class and the mechanics for each elite spec. Let's start with the base class. Guardian is very good. It can use a good number of weapons. It can also be used as a power or Conde DPS. The main mechanics for it are its virtues. Virtue of Justice, which is offensive, Virtue of Resolve, which heals you a bit, and Virtue of Courage, which gives you Aegis passively, or you can activate it for an extra charge. The leveling process with the Guardian is decent and very bearable. The virtues help you a lot, but when you get to harder content, the low HP pool might affect you a bit. But try to get used to the class before you reach that point and read the description of the skills, because you have lots of good utility skills that protect you from the damage. My recommendation while leveling is to use the gear that you drop from killing mobs and not worry about the stats or buying gear from the trading post. Also equip advanced skill for the swiftness spoon. It has charges, so try to use one charge at a time because they recharge faster. When you're leveling, movement speed is very important because the game feels very slow without it. In August patch, ArenaNet gave the Raptor as a starting mount, which makes things a lot better. But in combat, swiftness is still very good. When you reach level 80, you can get your cheap exotic gear from the trading post. I recommend Koss's armor if you want the condition damage variant, or Devona's armor if you want the power damage variant. Both of them are good and feel good to play. I personally use the condition damage variant as I already had the Viper gear from my Revenant, and it made things a lot easier, and if you switch to Firebrand after you get enough hero points, you have an almost meta geared character. One thing to note here is to use Sigil of Smoldering if you have Rampager stats, which is Koss's armor. As for the build, I recommend this one after you reach level 80 for condition DPS, and this build for power DPS. If you have Heart of Thorns, we can move on to Dragonhunter. This is a pure damage elite spec. It used to be quite good and recently received some buffs to bring it in line with other DPS specs, but it still lags behind a bit. The new mechanic for this elite spec compared to the base class is that your virtues switch to Spear of Justice, Wings of Courage and Shield of Courage. These virtues have improved effects compared to the base class and makes you deal more damage. It is not a major change, but you also gain the ability to wield a longbow, which is actually decent. The build that I use for this class is on the screen. It is very good for open world as you have a few movement skill, and Spear of Justice has a low cooldown, which also resets if the enemy is killed while you are tethered. The next elite spec is Firebrand, and you need Path of Fire to unlock it. This used to be one of the most OP elite specs in the game. Now it is in line with other specs and it's still a very good choice. The new mechanic for this spec is that your virtues switch to tomes and each tome has 5 skills inside. Tome of Justice for offensive skills, Tome of Resolve for healing skills, and Tome of Courage has defensive skills. You are also able to wield an axe in your main hand now, which has a medium range and can be used for all roles. I recommend to play this spec as a condition damage spec instead of power, as you'll do more damage. You can play it as power too if you want, but you'll be behind others in the DPS table. I will share the two builds I use for Firebrand. The first one is a pure DPS build, which can be adjusted a bit to provide quickness, and the pure healing build, which is used around all content. Pure DPS build is on the screen now. And Heal Firebrand build is here. And now, the latest elite spec for Guardian is Willbender, which was released with End of Dragons. This spec has a different playstyle compared to Firebrand. The combat feels like it flows compared to Firebrand, which feels a bit slow. Also, as you're probably used by now, the new mechanic for this spec has something to do with each virtues. They switch again to a martial arts version with fast-paced movement for offense, heal or support, and defense. They are called Rushing Justice, Flowing Resolve, and Crashing Courage. In addition to this, you are also able to wield a sword in your offhand, but I advised against that if you want to play the condition damage version. You can play Willbender as a power DPS or Conde DPS, but the version seen most of the time is the Conde version, which is also the one I chose because I already had the gear for it. But overall, Willbender is very good with either options in any content. The build that I'm using for it is on the screen now. I have used it in all strikes, fractals and open world doing meta events, and it did very good. There is also an alacrity support build that I'm trying at the moment, but it's not very dependable as you need to hit enemies constantly, and when you have invulnerability phases or mechanics to do, you won't be able to provide alacrity. In conclusion, Guardian is one of the top specs in the game and very good for beginners with plenty of build options and playstyles. You can use it in all content easily if you have all the elite specs unlocked. At the moment I am switching between Guardian, Ranger and Engineer when playing, and I can tell you that the combat on Willbender feels the most rewarding for me, with Soulbeast coming close second with the Greatsword variant. If you want to see more content like this, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, please click the like and subscribe buttons.